Whether you are on an adventure or at the downtown cafe, your answers are no more than a sniff away. Dog Training 360's purpose is simple: to teach you why dogs do what they do, as well as the action steps you need to take to have better communication, connection, consistency, and conceivability with your dog. We're on our adventure series, and this is, just to recap, when we talk about adventures, it's not like you're going on this 10-day trip or this 3-day trip. Even it's walking down the road and having an adventure with your dog by going someplace and experiencing something. And I feel like it's really all about the experience, no matter what. And I think one thing that we get caught up in our own bubbles is being at home and you have your local vet, and you know what diseases are prevalent, you know what you need to watch for, and we get in this really big comfort zone of, everything's great, and we know, like, if an emergency happens, we've got our vet. But what I think that we forget is, even being local, what if you have an emergency and your vet's not open? Or do you know where to go? Or do you have a specific problem? And maybe there's a better veterinarian out there that specializes in, the challenges that you're having or the problem that you're having. Or you go on an adventure at a coffee shop and all of a sudden a dog fights happen, and are you going to drive 20 minutes to the vet, or is there a vet 2 minutes away, that would be a better situation for your dog? And so thinking on that terms, and then going to a bigger scale, where am I taking my dog? What do I need for that? And then also what diseases are prevalent where I'm going, but also what veterinarians are available, what their hours are along the way and on that trip. I learned a hard lesson in June when we took the dogs to South Dakota, and where we were going is not someplace that the vet's just up the road. We were in the middle of nowhere, and Caroline ended up with a bladder infection, and luckily this little local vet that runs his business out of his home happened to be home, and I was able to get in, but it was a good half hour, 45 minutes away to get there. And I didn't even think, like, I should probably call until I got out to the main road off this ranch and thought I should probably ask him where I'm going and make sure that everything in Google is correct too, which it wasn't. Mm-hmm. And so, just really not really prepared like I should have been. And also not having everything in check like I should have done. And so I think it's important to talk about this side of knowing, what's going to be what's my plan if something happens, and be really in the know what's available to you as far as your vet stuff. And it's funny because with the horse stuff, you have to stop at your where the truckers stop. I can't even think of what they're called now. The port of entries. Mm-hmm. You have to stop when you're pulling a horse trailer. You have to present your health certificates and your brand inspections, and you have to have all of that stuff, and and you don't even think about it with the dogs. Mm-hmm. And so knowing that I had to do that traveling with horses this time, I had health certificates for everybody for the dogs, because I didn't know if they were going to ask for those or not, but I knew I had to stop for the horses. So it really kind of put me in a different mindset as far as what I needed to have prepared for the dogs to hit the road. The other thing that I did do is I knew where my stopping points were, and I also looked up, vets for the dogs, vets for the horses, like their hours. I called ahead and asked if they had boarding available for the horses. I mean, I was really on top of what, just in case, this time. I also knew that, traveling with the horses and the dogs, if I needed to stop at some point, what hotels were going to be dog friendly. I'm traveling in a pretty rural area, and they, it's not like I'm in the big city where I could find a hotel that accepts dogs. And so I really kind of prepared, where the fairgrounds were, where the closest hotel was to the fairgrounds, so I could board the horses, have some place for the dogs and us to sleep in case we needed to stop. And really, where my after hours options were, because we were traveling through the night as well. So I really, I really feel like I was more prepared this trip on, once we get there, what are all my options for the vets, and the closest one and all of that. So, Shannon, from the vet side of things, what are some of the tips and things that you could give, and also things that you noticed with people traveling and what they didn't know and all of that?
Well, I think one of the more surprising things is people, if your dog's on a specific food, which many pets are on a specific food, not everywhere sells that food. And if you are a person that's ordering it even like on Amazon or somewhere on the internet and is having it delivered to you, what if you run out of food on your trip? And then you're in a state where you don't know like who sells your dog food.
Right.
So that was like a number one thing that I feel like caught people off guard when they were traveling, when I worked at the vet, is they ran out of food and then they had no idea where in the city that they could buy the food. And sometimes they'd have to drive to another city to find it. We're lucky living in Salt Lake that we live in a pretty big city. We have after hours vets and we have all kinds of different stores. But if you're out somewhere that's a more rural area, they don't have after hours vets. Even in Utah, 45 minutes away from us, there's not an after hours vet, 45 minutes away from Salt Lake. So you have to think about like your basic things, like basically feeding your dog. Do you have enough food with you? Or if you need to buy it, are there stores in the area where you're going that sells that food? Or something equivalent that your dog could eat, which could risk your dog having a digestive issue on the trip because they're already stressed. And then if you change their diet, then you can run into diarrhea and things like that. How, if your dog has diarrhea, how are you going to deal with that on your trip? I feel like as a human person, I keep a lot of medicines for myself with me when I go on a trip. Indigestion medicine, headache medicine, allergy medicine. So if I would do that for myself, of course I would do that for my dog. So I have a travel, like first aid kind of whatever thing that I always take is part of the luggage that the dog has. That has things that I expect that I might need. Antidiuretic, pain medication, and all of these are things that you can get from your vet beforehand. If you go into the vet and say, I'm going on this trip and I think I might need these things, they will happily provide you with those things, and then just put it in a little baggie and put it in your travel stuff,
And they don't need to give a full prescription. I mean, it's just enough to like
2 pills or
I mean, and just, have it in your first aid. And what's crazy is, in the horse world, you plan for that. Like, what do I need in my first aid kit to hit the road? And you think about, we have wound stuff. We have tummy issues with the horses. We have losing a shoe issues, and so you really have to, these large animals that you're, it's not as easy as it is for the dogs. And so all of a sudden you're not thinking about it from the dog perspective in that realm, but we do it for the horses because it's such a bigger deal. And it just made me really think about this trip as far as I need to make this trip as smooth as possible because it was me and my daughter. I didn't have any other adults with me. There was not somebody else that can help support that. And so it really made me think about, well, this is everything that I'm taking for the horses, from their food, to, what do I need to really have prepared for my dogs and be better prepared so it's not as stressful with it. And, when you leave your state lines, you need to have a health certificate for your dog. People don't.
No, they don't. Because you don't think
there's
about
no accountability.
It unless you go on an airplane. Like, you don't have to stop at every state line or whatever with your dog. So you don't think about it unless you're going on an airplane, which has an organization that enforces the rules, or you're going to another country, which has a border organization. But you should have it in your first aid stuff. just copy all your certificates,
Yep.
your vaccination certificates, and put in there. Because if you have an emergency and you have to board your dog, they require the vaccination certificates, and your vet might not be open.
Right.
And they can't send them.
Exactly.
You know, so if you have all those documents just in with everything, you can just pull them out and provide them. If your dog's on specific medications or specific foods, you want to have a copy of the prescriptions with you.
Yep.
Because a lot of veterinary places will fill a prescription for you if you have a copy of the prescription. They're usually pretty nice. I have a little USB drive that I just have on my keyring all the time, like in case I have to save stuff, and I have a folder that has all my dog's medical records in case that I go to a vet and then I have the records. They can get them right then and not have to contact my vet. Because like if you're find a place that can help you in the middle of the night, your regular vet's not open in the middle of the night.
Right.
You know, so you need to have that stuff with you.
And not always having service.
Absolutely.
That's if it's in an email or, you know, in a Dropbox or something like that. I mean, you should, I had all mine printed out this time and just in the glove box with all the horse papers that we have to travel with the horses. And so, definitely, you don't really think about that stuff, and you can get it ahead of time. It's not like this last minute, like, you know, you're going on a trip, so prepare for it and have it. So, you know, for me, it was, I already have my first aid kit for the dogs. I just knew, like, I have it packed up and I have it, you know, and so it's easy to pack up their stuff. And I usually pack up the dogs, and I'm the last one to pack for me. But, I don't think that we always think about, you know, even if you're going 45 minutes away, in that 45 minute stretch that you're driving, you know, what are my vets?
Sure.
You know, what's available to me? If you get in a car accident, do you know where they may end up taking your dog? Where are the pounds at? Where are the, you know, because it really, those are the things that you should just know. And I think that there's a great website, and I think, is it Rover?
Rover has a lot of resources on
of kind of planning your trips with your dogs. And I believe it's rover.com. But there's a lot of websites out there that have resources as far as hotels, local dog parks where you're going, different restaurants that allow dogs in them. And I think that they're, you know, use what's available so that your trip can be, you may not need them. But having it in a book, having it in a folder, having it in your vehicle as you're traveling, so you know where everything is, what you need just in case. And if you want to just go off the beaten path for something that wasn't planned, you at least have a general idea of what's available to you. Knowing going into your national parks, you know, not being able to take your dog in, and is there a place outside the park that can take your dog for the day? And what that reputation is, and plan for that. Because I was in, we took our shepherds back east. We drove across country back east for when we got married. And there were some things that we wanted to do, but we couldn't take the dogs. And we stopped in Nashville and went into quite a few of the country museums and stuff like that. But there was there were several people that would come and take your dog out for a walk while you were in those places. And so we utilized that service a couple of times. There were a couple of people that just would let your dog stay at their house. And it seems super crazy. You're like, I don't even know these people, but, but they do have reviews, and they're reputable businesses. It's not like just random people. But they're reputable businesses that actually offer those services that we took advantage of, so that we could go do the things that our dogs couldn't, and that the dogs got to go on an adventure. And, you know, our dogs were really well behaved. They were social. We were able to put them in that situation, because I knew what their skill level was. And it was kind of spur of the moment stuff that we decided to do. And, but we knew, you know, we had looked up and like, what can we do with the dogs? What are our options? And just planning and thinking ahead about, you know, we don't want to skip something because we have the dogs, but there's options out there.
And you might know someone that lives there. I
For
mean,
sure.
we live in a time where we have friends that live all over the world.
Yeah.
You know
Yep.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And they know where they take their dogs,
Mhm.
or they know a lot of time what's available
Yep.
in their city. I know
Yeah.
my friends that even live in the city, they call me all the time and say, I'm here. What vet should I go to?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I'm a weird person that I know like all the vets in the whole state
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like where they are and who's closest and
Yep.
what they charge and
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So my friends call me all the time or text
Right.
me, hey, I need to go to the vet, like what's by me, and I can just text them back,
Yeah.
you know?
Yep.
So, I mean, if you have friends in the area that
Yeah.
might know, before you go, ask them,
Yeah.
you know?
Yep.
And they might say, hey, come and bring your dog to my house for a little while if you want to go do this.
Right.
You never know.
Right. For
unless
sure.
you reach out, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
But you can find resources that aren't on the internet from local people
Yes.
that live there if you just ask them.
Yeah. Yep.
Hey,
exactly.
I'm going to come visit your area, because people love the area that they live in. They
Uh-huh.
want you to have a good time and
Yep.
see all the cool stuff. So they'll usually tell you a
Yeah.
lot of things,
Yeah.
you know.
For sure. And I think, just, to sum everything up, it's being prepared
Mm-hmm.
and knowing that there's resources out there, but be prepared. Have your health certificate, have your vaccinations, be prepared with what your history of your dog is,
Mm-hmm.
of the things that you may need,
Mm-hmm.
and know your vets along the way
Mm-hmm.
and what their hours are. And even call and talk to them, use them as a resource if you need to,
Absolutely.
hey, I'm coming through Gillette, Wyoming. What are my options around here if I have an emergency? If you
Mhm.
may not be able to find it on the internet, and sometimes things are hard to dig into,
Mm-hmm.
but calling, the vet, what are my options? This is the time that I'm going to be in here,
Mm-hmm.
and so it really, plan ahead, think ahead, and have the correct documentation that you need wherever you're going. There's travel agencies specifically for animals.
Yep.
And they can give you a ton of resources, and they know all the rules and the regulations for each state and
Mhm.
what you'll need to have and what your diseases are, and even help you that way. So be in the know, be prepared, because you may need them.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, you at least know that
You were prepared.
We were prepared
Yep.
for it. So don't just hit the road and think that you're going to find things along the way, because it's not always the case.
Mm-hmm.